2009, an amazing year for film and especially for animated film. There has been no year that has produced as many great animated films since 2009. There were so many trends within animation that sprouted in this year, like the fact that there were so many indie films that weren't produced by huge companies. Maybe that's why they were so good. There was also a rise of so many amazing stop-motion animated films. There were two animal characters that had English voice translators, two scenes with elders that needed to use like those escalator chairs to get up their stairs, and most importantly, there were a bunch of headcanon gay characters. But anyways, 2009 was an exceptional year for animated films. Not to say that all of them were good, but the ones that weren't bad are just exceptional. And I'm here to talk about them. But before I start, you're probably wondering, hasn't another very popular YouTuber already made this video, whose profile picture is potentially the crab from Moana? Well, yes, they have, but this is the Squeakquel, baby. And as much as I love Schaeferless's content, I can't help mentioning that there were so many films that he failed to mention in his video. So that's why I'm here, to talk about my list of the films that I believe to be the best from 2009's amazing catalog. So I'm going to be starting off the list with two honorable mentions. Movies that I liked, but I don't believe to be the absolute best from the year. Movies that I would probably give like a 6 out of 10. And the first of these ones is Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is a fun ride that I have avoided until I decided to make this video. Okay, hear me out. So back in 2013, when I was in grade 4, my school had this like homemade cinema, kind of. Most of the time it was there to show the kids educational videos by like Bill Nye and stuff. But sometimes when we were lucky, we got to watch a movie, and that was really cool. I watched Paranorman there, it was sick. But one time they decided to play Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2. And after I watched it, I thought it was one of the worst things I've ever seen. I liked some of the creature design, but that was it. And ever since that day, I have had no desire to watch Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. But I needed to watch it for this video, and yeah, I liked it. It had enough charm and personality that kept me interested throughout. It was really funny at some points, but others not so much. The CG animated style in this movie was actually really good, and I really liked the use of color in some shots. Especially considering that this was 2009, CG looked amazing. And yeah, it's a mostly enjoyable movie, and I'd say a really good kids movie. And the other honorable mention on this list is Pixar's Up. And let me just start off by stating the obvious. Yes, the first 20 minutes of this movie is great. The music, the editing, and the animation all combine to create amazing sequences. Then the rest of the movie happens, and it's alright. There are a few really good shots. I really like the villain, although I despise his army of talking dogs. They are so annoying, and especially the use of the scary thing that doesn't actually have a scary voice trope just pissed me off. It had been a while since I saw Up since revisiting it, and I didn't remember how bloody this movie was. I mean, obviously there wasn't excruciating gore, but there were little moments where blood was used when characters got injured, and I really liked that conclusion. It gave off the feeling that the characters actually have stakes within the film and don't feel invincible. Like when that man got bonked at the beginning of the film, I was like, oh damn! Up has its small, great qualities, but it's mostly just a pretty decent kids' adventure movie. Okay, now we're moving on to the actual list, and starting off with a film called My Dog Tulip. This film is about a man and his dog, and guess what? The dog doesn't die! But yeah, this is just a more mature and comedic movie about a man writing about his experience with his dog, Tulip. The animation has this very scratchy and scribbly style that works very well, and some of the ways in which they present certain events and actions is really creative. The sound design, which does tend to get annoying after a while because of the constant sound of the dogs barking, is mostly really well done and feels very realistic. The score is really funky at times, but also really soft and pleasant, and is incorporated well within the scenes it's used in. All in all, this is a really solid film that is probably the least popular on this list, so definitely check it out. Summer Wars is kinda crazy, but it works. The animation is very smooth and just pops in certain scenes. There are sequences in the film that have a different style from the typical anime style that we see throughout most of the film, and these sequences are just so stylized. The character designs for the avatars are all charming, and I like that I could see the comparisons to real life characters. As well as the avatar design, the character design of all the people was also really good too. Each person had their own characteristics and traits, and they were all recognizable and unique. The use of CG animation was actually used very well. Normally anime use CG for budgetary reasons, and whether or not this was the case for this film, it was still used really well and blended well with the 2D animation. The editing in this film was also really good, especially with its transitions. The cuts, along with the use of sound design, made for really great and satisfying transitions. The film touches a lot about internet culture, and the messages expressed within this film really do reflect on internet culture. And even though it was 2009, the themes expressed are just as impactful today. The Secret of Kells is really good. It gives off such a whimsical vibe with its beautiful animation and enchanting score. This was Tom Moore's start to a great lineup of animated films. The Secret of Kells is filled with so many unique designs for just basic things like animals and trees and buildings. The film is filled with many shots that show you various angles that are not commonly used in 2D animation, similar to the ones in last year's Wolfwalkers, and they're just really cool to see different aspects of this world. I don't have much to say about this film, it's just really good. Now it's about time I probably talk about the most popular movie on this list, Coraline. Coraline is surreal. This was another movie that I haven't seen in a while, and I'm honestly glad. It was pretty much like watching an entirely new movie, because all the memories that I really had from this film was just that it scared me when I was a child, but honestly, I don't know why. Maybe the elements of horror just flew above my head this time around because I was just in awe of the world and concepts that this film had to offer. The world building is excellent, and I loved the contrast between the gloomy real world with the whimsical yet creepy button world. This is a film where there is this crazy fellow, these crazy fellows, dancing mice, lots of bugs, and a talking cat, and it all just falls into place so well. I haven't even talked about the amazing animation. I mean, the animation is just so good. The characters have these jerky movements, and yet the animation just feels so smooth. All the characters are just filled with so much expression within their movements, their body language, and their emotions. Although I do have my few problems with the film, it's still really great. The next film is A Town Called Panic, another stop-motion animated film. Starting to notice a pattern here, eh? Anyways, A Town Called Panic is probably the most bonkers movie on this list. And it's fucking great. The movie is just charmingly silly, and it knows exactly what it is. It has such a cartoonish tone, and it's just such an enjoyable and fun ride. The movie is in French, and when watching it, you should keep it that way. Normally I don't have a problem with using dubs, but it just feels more authentic when watching a film in its original language. And trust me, the voice acting in this film is done so well and is so hilarious, and deserves to be heard in its original form. This isn't a movie that requires a lot of attention, and it's fairly short, so just slap it on and experience this amazing thrill ride. Mary and Max is a delightful film. It's a film that expresses a lot of despondent subject matter, but is all wrapped up in a nice, shiny red bow. The film touches on troubling subject matters, as well as being a very wholesome comedy. It has a great balance of comedic and dramatic elements and creates for a very consistent tone throughout. The animation is stellar, and the uses of color have so much effect and are done really well, especially when thinking of the context of the characters' lives. The voice acting by Toni Collette and Philip Seymour Hoffman is excellent, and I just love the thoughtful representation within the film. Max, one of the main characters, has Asperger's, and not once does the film perceive Max in a negative light. The film tackles the subject matter with so much care and pride, and I really love the positivity and thought put into the representation. Go watch Mary and Max, because it deserves so much recognition. And now we're on to my favorite movie of 2009, and that is Fantastic Mr. Fox. I mean, there was no competition. Fantastic Mr. Fox is the most amazing, beautiful, charming, witty, comforting, and, well, fantastic movie ever. It's hard to say whether this or Eternal Sunshine is my absolute favorite movie of all time, because each one fills me up with a different flurry of emotions. But this is my comfort movie, my favorite animated movie of all time, and probably is my favorite movie ever, let's be real. Every frame of this film is filled with so much personality and creativity. I love every second of this film. All the characters are so charming and filled with determination and charisma. I love how they went to locations when recording audio for the film to create immersion. I love the immense detail within the character design, as well as the backgrounds and the scenery, and just every asset shown on screen. I love the soundtrack, I love the animation, I love all the elements of Anderson's style, I love the subtle messages the film expresses, I love the quirky and witty dialogue, I love that so many gags extend through the whole runtime of the film, I love Willem Dafoe Rat, I love Mr. Fox's monologues, I just love every aspect of this film. This is a movie that I would consider perfect. No flaws, no inconsistencies, just perfect. Oh yeah, and I should probably mention that the Killer Bean movie also came out in 2009. Whoop whoop!